Let's go, 325. You can do it. Go, Kensif.
26.2 miles, 3 hours, 21 minutes, and 53 seconds per mile for an average per mile time of 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Overall, had an up and down day at the Indianapolis Marathon. I had a pretty good day. My running buddy did not, so really bummed about that. He was so incredibly close. But today we'll talk about all of that as I do my Indianapolis Marathon 2018 race recap. Things that I thought were a nice surprise. There was just a lot more crowd support than I was expecting. I've been not running with music for my races lately, and I really enjoy that, trying to draw energy from the crowd. But some other Indianapolis videos that I had watched showed that there was like no crowd support along the entire race, except for like a one like kind of concentrated area downtown at the start and finish. So I was expecting kind of like to be running out in the wilderness. So to see crowd support regularly throughout the neighborhoods was really great to see. A lot of kids out there today too, or not today, but the day of the race. So that was also really rejuvenating. Great to see that. Our pace group was amazing. We had a really good pacer. He did a great job keeping us all together for as long as he could. And we had a really solid group, the 325 group. There was a bunch of us. In terms of some things that I didn't like so much about the race was a couple of things. The morning of the race, it was really nice that we could wait inside because it was a little bit chilly that morning, and we could wait inside the convention center, and there was tons of bathrooms there, but the bathroom line was super long and it just took forever. I couldn't really figure out what was going on there. And so my buddy and I, we always try to get to a race a little bit extra early because we've been in the situation where you get there late and then all of a sudden you got to go to the bathroom, and then you always have to go to the bathroom a second time. And we were just getting really nervous about it, and we don't like that feeling. We ran into that feeling at the Indianapolis Marathon, so that was a little bit stressful. But fortunately, gear check was really close to the race start and also really quick. So that was also really efficient. I just think these are really the things that happen with much smaller races compared to a world major of Chicago. And so it was really nice to have that kind of difference because other races I've been to, gear check takes forever picking up or dropping off. And so this was really nice. Everything was super fast. Once we dropped our stuff off at gear check, then we had to get to like the start, and that's where like another problem with the race was. It was like a corral situation. We were in wave 1, and so wave 1 was relatively big. It had the elites and wave 1 in it, and it also happened to be really near an alley where I was able to get in there and get some strides in, do some high knees, butt kicks, things like that. I don't really warm up too much for a marathon, but I was so cold I wanted to make sure I did a little bit of movement before I had to just stand in the corral. So that was nice, but once you got in the corral, it was really crowded. And because they send off the half marathon and the marathon at the same time, there was just a lot of people in there. And also, I think that some people were, I want to think that some people were confused. They didn't either realize that they had to be in a specifically assigned wave, and I don't think there was anyone really checking whether you should have been in wave 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And I also think that some people were confused if they were running the half marathon. They saw the 325 or the 320 flag and thought that that was for the half marathon and not the full marathon. And so once the race started, it was a bit of a mess. We had a hard time just even running, not running slow or running near our pace flag, just running. And it was really hard to get your rhythm at first. And it took several miles for that to figure itself out, because of the fact that the Indianapolis Marathon, for whatever reason, the city's just not willing to give as much space as the race needs. And so for a lot of the race, I felt very cramped. Granted, we were in a pace group, the 325 pace group, and Indy is a fast place. The runners that show up are fast. With my 321 time, I was 113 out of 170. So not even 50th percentile in terms of men in my age group. And just to give you an idea of how fast the competition is at this race, the 325 pace group, I think, was probably one of the more popular pace groups. At one point, we probably had 20, maybe even 30 people running with us in a pack. But still, there were times where there would have been like a 4 or a 5 lane road, and the marathon would only get a lane, right? And so it was like all these people just trying to get jammed in. And this is most of that, the tighter spots were after the half marathon split off. I think just the amount of road width that we were given is not enough for the amount of runners that are pushing through there. That was something that I just had a little bit of a problem with way past the halfway point. And so I just constantly felt like this race was trying to squeeze me into another place. And even like the final kind of way that the race was trying to squeeze me was at the end. After you finished, you got to gear check, and gear check for whatever reason was on this like elevated area. So there was 2 extra steps. Not that 2 steps is a lot, but after a marathon, 2 steps, it might as well be a mountain. And so like I was just like, this race just keeps wanting to push me into directions I don't want to go. And so that was a little bit not a concern, because it was still a fast course, but I just felt like there was a lot of turns, and I felt there was a lot of parts where I was just getting squeezed in. It was just everything got really tight a lot of times, and so that was a little bit of a concern. In terms of gear for the day, I went all Nike again, and I went with the Vaporfly 4%, the Vast Gray version. I went like the version 1, not the Flyknit version. Nothing wrong with the Flyknit version. I will hopefully be able to explain why I had to go with a different pair of Vaporfly for this marathon soon. The one thing that is different this time though from last time, I mean the midsoles and outsoles of that shoe are the same. It's just the upper that's different as far as I know. But my big toe on my right foot has a huge bruise on the front of it. And I don't know if it's because I was running at a pace I was a little bit slower, trying to pace my buddy, and so maybe my foot was like hammering into the pavement a little bit. I don't know exactly what it was, but I have a huge bruise on my right big toe. So that's the only kind of casualty from the race weekend. I ran with a tank and then a long sleeve. Because I just felt like it was a little bit too cold. And so I felt like the long sleeve was the right choice for me. So that was the gear. And full disclosure, the things that were given to me by Nike were the long sleeve and the socks. Those are the 2 things. Everything else I purchased myself. In terms of where things went wrong, we were overall, I would say that like me and my running buddy had an amazing 23 miles. And that's probably the most frustrating thing about this race, is that like he had such a good race for 23 miles. At mile 16, that's when the course is pretty flat, but at mile 16 there's this like 3 mile chunk from 16 to 19, which is kind of like a really bad place to put an uphill, but there's like a gradual, it's a little bit rolling, but it's a gradual uphill for about that distance. And at the end of 19, I knew there would be a long downhill. And so as we hit 16 and we were, fighting to get up some of those, they're very, very little, very gradual hills, but enough to feel it. I was talking to him and I'm saying like, when we get to 19, we're going to use the help of that hill. And instead of just coasting down, we're just going to let gravity work and extend that stride and push a little bit there. And that's when we'll make the distance from the pace group. When we got to about mile 18, he looked over at me and told me he's not going to have any push left, so we're just going to try and hang with the pace group. And I was like, that's fine. And in my mind, I should have taken that a little bit more seriously, and that's, I think, where I messed up for the 2 of us, is I should have like listened to that a little bit more closely, because I just kept thinking, he's just saying that, but will really push, but maybe around mile 23 or maybe even mile 25. So when we hit mile 19, we hit that downhill area. You're like exiting off the highway into like this little park area. So that's kind of what it was. Think about the slope like that. And it was winding, and we came down, and then we were in this kind of park area. We had all this like Indiana trivia, which was kind of nice and a nice distraction, because otherwise it was just like a long straight road through the woods, which was nice and also a little bit boring because there was no people there. I don't think cars could get there. That part had been closed off, so there was no crowd support. So it was just running, which sometimes is good, but in that spot, mile 19, it was a little bit rough. So we stayed with the pace group through there. At mile 20, I started seeing if he could follow me ahead of the pacer a little bit. And then that didn't quite work out. He was still kind of like reluctant to do that. And so I was like, all right, let's just hang out and let's relax. We'll stay here for a while. And then I'm thinking maybe around mile 23, 25, I'll start to get him to push and just start yelling at him like crazy to get him to start moving. That was the plan. Unfortunately, around mile 23, we hit an aid station, and around then, throughout the day, because it was cooler, we had been eating our gels, but I don't think we had stopped for enough liquids. And so I'm thinking that's part of what happened to him. I haven't brought that part up to him for sure, but I know hydration was a problem for me. But I was feeling really confident, and since I didn't feel like I was sweating that much, I didn't feel like I needed to stop. I didn't feel thirsty. And so I don't think we took enough liquids. But when we did the same strategy that I used in Chicago, which was, walk, jog through the aid stations, drink a whole bunch. Don't worry about like running and keeping up your exact pace through the aid stations. So we did that. But after the mile 23-ish area aid station, I noticed he was further back, and I was kind of waiting for him to catch back up to the pace flag, and he never did. And so after about a little bit, I dropped back to go and see how he was doing. He's like, I'm not going to be able to make it, going ahead. And I said, look, we'll stay back here, and we'll just keep the pace flag in sight so we could see it, and then we'll catch it. Once we come down the home stretch and we've got all the people around us and we've got energy, we'll catch it later. And I was like, just stay on my shoulder. And so we were running, and we were slowing down from the pace flag a little bit by little bit, just to hopefully let him catch his breath. And he kept even staying further and further off of my shoulder, and I was getting bummed about it. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stay here? I think you can do it. I'll pull you in. If you want. And he just told me to go on ahead. It wasn't going to be his day. And, I've been in that position before. Usually the roles are reversed with me and him. I'm always the one like insisting that he just go. So I've been in that situation, and I know that like once you hit that spot, you don't want company. And so I let him go, and that's when I took off. I thought I was feeling pretty good, so I thought I would really like push for that last 5K and see what I could do in a last 5K of a marathon from a pace perspective. So I really picked it up there. I was looking at my watch, my numbers, according to my Nike watch. I had the Nike watch for this one and no phone. So I was just using the Apple Watch Series 4 GPS. And it was showing me numbers that were in the low 7s and high 6s. So I was like, this is crazy. And I did that for like a mile and a half. And then all of a sudden, my right quad started to like let me know that I had not been drinking enough water. And then my left quad let me know that I had not been drinking enough water or Gatorade. And then my right calf let me know that too. And I was just at a point where I was still maybe a mile and a half out. And I was like, I don't know. This may be a DNF, because at any minute it might look like a sniper takes me out and I might just fall over because the muscles give out. So at that point, I kind of backed off a little bit, and I cruised in towards the finish. And tried to and at one point, and maybe at like mile 25 and a half, everything kind of like, it was like a muscle spasm, and all of a sudden it just relaxed. And so I was like, all right, I feel good. So let's keep going again. So I picked it back up, and then my body was like, no, we were giving you a break since you were taking it easy on us, but since you've pushed again, now we're going to come back and haunt you. And so then coming into the finish, my stride is all like herky jerky, and I'm like all over the place, and I'm like kind of like bouncing my way into the finish is what it felt like. And so I was able to make it in. Okay, I did run into another runner who, like a Chicago guy that I know from up here, from some of the Nike pop-up races, and he was yelling at me. So we were chatting, and I was like, how are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm dying. I'm like, me too. I think my quad's about to give out, and I'm just coasting it on fumes. And he was the same way. And so it was just nice to be like, we're both miserable. This is great, to have that kind of conversation, yelling at each other on the street, even though we were really close. For some reason, we were yelling. But that was kind of funny. So we brought it in, and that was my race for the day. And then a weird thing happened with my timing. Not with my official timing, but on my Apple Watch. I stopped the activity like I normally do. And then sometimes I have to like open up the Nike Run Club app on my phone when I want it to push really fast. Sometimes it just instantly pushes over. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, and it tends to be the longer the activity, maybe because it's sending the GPS data or whatever. And I also had a long chunk of time, like 15 minutes, between when I finished and then my buddy came in over the line, and then I went to get my gear check bag where my phone was there. And so once I synced those up, a weird thing happened. The 26 point whatever mile, I actually ended up with like 26.8 miles on my Nike watch. That activity disappeared from my Nike watch. And I was like, did it just eat my marathon? But when I looked at the Nike Run Club app on the phone, it was there. And I was able to push from there to Strava. And then I was like, well, at least it's in Strava now. So Strava has it. And so wherever, if the Nike Run Club app loses it, that's fine. But at least I got it somewhere. Plus, it's a chip time event, so I have the time. But it was really weird to see it. And then, like in the Nike Run Club app on the watch, you can scroll all the way down and see like your last however many number of activities. But then at the bottom, it tells you like how many miles you've run this month and how many runs you've had. It would show the 26.8 on one run at the bottom of that, like that tally. But in the list of activities, it wouldn't show up on my watch, but it would show up on my phone. So it was really weird. It wasn't until last night, Monday night, that activity showed up in my list of previous activities. So that was strange. The other thing that was really strange is people were commenting on my split in Strava, but it didn't reflect like the last 5K that I kicked. It gave me like really consistent time throughout the entire race. And so people were commenting like, wow, you're like very spot on, very consistent all 26 miles. And I was like, something's wrong with that tracing, because I know I wasn't. And so finally I was able to go, I looked at the individual splits on the Nike Run Club app, and that had what at least felt like the efforts that I was giving. So let me pull that up real quick. So the last 5K, mile 23 was 7:42. That was kind of average for like what we had been running most of the race. Mile 24 was 7 minutes 8 seconds. Mile 25 was 6 minutes 45 seconds. And mile 26, that last 0.2, or according to this, I had 0.8 miles at mile 26, was at 7 minutes 8 seconds pace. I'm feeling really good about that. I don't think those are completely accurate, but if I'm somewhere in the 7-minute range for the last 5K of a marathon, even though I was easing up on it till that point, but to have that left at the 23 mile mark, to me, makes me feel really good. That was the last race of the 2018 running season for me. I probably won't race again until 2019, and so that I think sets me up in a real good spot for 2019. For 2019, I'm definitely looking at an hour and a half for the half marathon, which is about 6:51. And so if I could have run mile 25 at 6:45, and I need to run 6:51s for a half marathon, that makes it very doable in my mind. If not doable, not now, but doable, at my current fitness level. So that makes me feel real good. And I'll have a half marathon at the end of January. It's outside in the wintertime along the lake in Chicago. So as long as the weather is not blistering cold and snowy and windy, hopefully I'll have a good race there. And I may even try to make that push at that time. But my running buddy, he was real disappointed about his performance, although I don't think he has anything to be ashamed about. He had 23 fantastic miles. He's been injured until from last year's 2017 Chicago Marathon to the middle of June. Because remember, we usually run the Soldier Field 10 mile together. He couldn't even run that with me, and that's at the end of May. And so he really didn't even start running again until middle of June. To be where he's at, I think was amazing. I think that the 325, if I had paced him differently, and I'd listened to him more, I think I could have gotten him into definitely a sub 330, if not 327, 328 easily with how we were doing. I think that I got too aggressive with it, and I take a lot of responsibility for that because I think I screwed it up for him. So I feel bad. but we're going to make up for it. We're already looking at a couple of other marathons. We're looking at St. Louis is a place that I'm familiar with, and that marathon is in April, so that's something we're thinking about. We're also looking at Grandma's Marathon. It's a little bit later in the year, though. It's in June, so I'm not sure if he's going to want to wait that long to kind of get that redemption run in, and I know that feeling. So we'll see. We'll see how his winter training goes as to which one we do, but so those are kind of like, we do want to run for sure a spring marathon next year, if not an early summer. But for now, for the end of 2018, I don't have any other races on the calendar, not really training for anything. And as much as I love training for races and having that like motivational point in mind, I'm kind of just looking forward to like trying out a couple different new shoes that I've never seen before, getting in some miles, getting out there and just enjoying just running. Again, not that I wasn't enjoying running before, but running to run and not running to train. And so just getting in miles, how they feel, not worrying about tempo runs so much for a little bit. I won't really take a break from running, but I will take a little bit of a break from tempo runs and intervals for at least a little while, I think. Maybe. We'll see. I might get the itch soon. Last thing I want to do before I go today is talk about our charity runner for the day. We did have a charity runner for yesterday, but since yesterday was a race video, he was in the description, but I didn't get to call him out specifically. It's Reggie Humphrey. Reggie Humphrey is going to be running, I believe, his first marathon in Nashville. He's running to support St. Jude. St. Jude, and I think other Nashville marathoners are going to be running for St. Jude. So kudos to them. St. Jude is great because it ensures that kids can get the medical treatment that they need, and their parents can also get the support that they need as parents of sick children without any of them having to worry about what it's going to cost. So an amazing charity that does great work. Today's charity runner is Lewis Marsh. Lewis Marsh is running the London Marathon in 2019 for a similar cause for sick children. He's running for an organization out in England called Well Child, and they do similar work, although I think it's slightly different take on it. They make sure that kids who are sick or chronically sick don't necessarily have to languish in a hospital, because hospitals aren't necessarily the friendliest places for children to recuperate or to get better or to get well. And so I believe what Well Child does is it enables kids who might not otherwise afford to get the treatment that they could get at home, but because they can't afford it, maybe they have to stay in a hospital. It enables them to get that care at home in a place that's more nourishing and comfortable and familiar, and hopefully feels a little bit more safe. And so a really great cause. I love to see those guys. I've donated $5 to each of them, and I'll put their links in the description, and I hope you do the same. By the way, I'm out of charity runners now, so if you are a charity runner or know a charity runner, send those fundraising links my way. I'm always looking for new charity runners to support. That's all I have for today's video. It's a lot longer than I thought it would be. I tried to keep it condensed. Sorry about that. I'll try to do my best in editing to really pack it together and make it a little bit more succinct. But thanks so much for making it to the end of this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?